Icebreakers brought to you by Boston Pizza. No better spot to watch the playoffs than at BP's, and no better time to go than now when you can check out their new menu inspired by Fanalytics beer mimosas, the new Italian deli pizza, and deep fried pickles. So much more. It's all good at BP's. Frank, we're going to start out in, well, your neck of the woods. The Flyers have been searching for a new president of hockey operations for quite a bit of time here. Are they nearing the final stages? Have they made progress?
I believe they are, Tyler. I believe that an announcement is expected to come in the next couple days here by Friday, if not on Friday itself. And I believe that this search has been now whittled down to two finalists. And coincidentally enough, they're both on Turner Sports. And that would be Eddie Olczyk and Keith Jones. Keith Jones, of course, has long ties to the Philadelphia Flyers organization. He has been a player for the team and has been a team broadcaster for a number of years. And Eddie Olczyk, after hanging up his skates, of course, had a stint as coach of the Pittsburgh Penguins before spending much of the last 17 years or so in the broadcast booth across the NHL with both NBC and Turner Sports. So both of these guys are well-known personalities, well-known faces in the industry. And it'll be really interesting to see how this all shakes out here in the next couple days, because two well-qualified candidates as well to be the front-facing presence for a Flyers executive team that is expected to include Danny Briere as GM, as well as John Tortorella, the head coach, having a big say in the decision-making process as head coach. So well on their way in Philadelphia and nearing the final stages. They've cast a pretty wide net, conducted a lot of different interviews with candidates over the last number of days and weeks, including John Chaika, Scott Mellenby. Go down the list. There's been a lot of people, that Chris Pronger, that have been in the mix. And I believe it is down to those two final guys. Doug Wilson also receiving interviews as well. So Flyers cast a wide net. We'll see what they come up with.
Let's hop across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I said that correctly, Frank, right? Commonwealth?
You did, yes. Yeah.
Perfect. Let's head over to Pittsburgh. There's been some talk that maybe they'll structure this front office in a non-traditional way, and there's been some debate about what they could do. What are you hearing on the Penguins?
Yeah, so my belief is the Penguins, I'm told, are going with the same exact structure that they had previously. And that was sort of the debate was, do you just go with one overarching person after having both Brian Burke and Ron Hextall as president of hockey ops and general manager? It appears that they're going to stick with that two-headed monster moving forward. And the Penguins, like I said, president and general manager, they're going to be two separate positions. And on top of that, I believe the Penguins, who have sort of been operating very quietly throughout this process, are nearing the end of their first round of interviews. And so I'm going to throw a list of some of the names that have been in the mix, to my understanding. Some of these candidates are as general managers. Some of them are as president of hockey ops. So they are speaking to quite a long list of people. And those include Marc Bergevin, the former Montreal Canadiens general manager, Jason Botterill, the current assistant GM in Seattle, John Chaika, as previously mentioned in the Flyers search, Matthew Darche from the Tampa Bay Lightning, and one other name to throw into the mix would be Ryan Martin, the assistant general manager of the New York Rangers. So those are some of the people that I've heard that are in the mix. That's not an exhaustive list. That's not an all-encompassing list by any means, but just gives you some insight into what they're thinking and some of the names that have popped up that are expected to be included in the process moving forward.
Casting a wide net. Very interesting. It's almost trade rumor season, Frank, as we move along in the Stanley Cup playoffs and just inch closer to the offseason. One team that, well, they're not expected to be active, Frank. They're almost going to be forced to be active when you look at the fact they have no cap space. That is the Vancouver Canucks. I feel like I've asked you this question 100 times over the last calendar year. What the hell are the Canucks going to do?
Well, they need to shed salary. There's no doubt about that. They can't really be active in anything else because as it stands right now, they essentially have negative cap space. So if you're thinking that the cap is going to be $83.5 million. They've still got some people to sign and are currently at 83.3. Now, of course, injuries and LTIR could factor in slightly, but the fact of the matter remains this. I'm told the Canucks have been active in recent weeks, gauging prices from around the NHL as to what it would take to dump some of their contracts. The main focal point I'm told that the Canucks have been active on is moving Connor Garland's salary. You heard Brock Besser say at the end of the season that he doesn't really want to be traded. It's still certainly possible that they find a new home for Besser. And they always have the sort of break glass in case of emergency play with JT Miller before his no trade clause kicks in on July 1. But Garland, who you just saw on your screen, he's someone that they've really keyed in on. With the term remaining on his deal, he might provide some significant flexibility. And so Garland has been one name that they're focusing on. But Tyler, here's what they've learned, and probably not going to shock you or anyone listening, is it's going to be expensive to pull off moves like that to get someone to take on a contract like that, nearly $5 million for the next number of years. It's a lot to ask and a very steep price. So they may have to look elsewhere or get creative. And that's one thing that Patrick Allvin, their GM, has done, is kept an open mind throughout the process of what he may have to do over the next number of weeks.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, you look at Connor Garland, almost 20 goals last season, and that's not a terrible year by any means, but that cap hit, that term is what's going to make it difficult to move. It'll be interesting to see what goes on in Vancouver over the next couple of months. Frank, fantastic work on another edition of Icebreakers, brought to you by Boston Pizza.